Hi, welcome to Noumena, the only place that's reverse engineered the College Board. We're going to show you how to solve these problems very quickly with mathematical precision and with 100% confidence. That means you no longer have to rely on the answer key, but purely on the power of knowledge. The mind is a powerful tool, and we're going to show you how to use it. Here's how it's done. Question 17. Because the garden was untended, the windows had no shutters, and the lawn overrun by weeds, people passing by the old house assumed that it was unoccupied. Okay, now let's check each choice and all the errors associated with each choice, and hopefully we can find the answer. Let's start with A, untended. Here, we're going to check and make sure that the verb form is correct.
Are there any other possible errors for this answer choice, Brian?
Well, I noticed that we had a series right away. So for every answer choice that's involved in the series, I'd probably check for parallel errors as well.
But other than that, there doesn't seem to be.
No, we're right next to it. We have the helping verb was, so maybe I'd take a quick look for verb tense, but it seems fine to me. So
Yeah.
I'd probably leave it at verb form for now, and then as I go along, I'll continue to check for parallel errors. So.
Exactly. So that's what Brian's doing right now is he's trying to see all the potential errors this problem choice A could create. And we go through this check, we see that the verb form, the past participle of untended, is perfectly fine here. Because the garden was untended, this is written in the passive voice. If we were to change it to the present participle, was untending, that means the garden was doing the act of untending, and it would be in the active voice, but also in the past progressive. But here, we want to keep it in the simple past, passive voice, and that was untended. So the verb form seems to work here.
Great. So let's move on to B. Had no. The windows had no shutters. Again, we're going to look for parallel errors, and this time we wanted to go and double check for the verb tense. Again, we're just looking for simple past. It seems okay, it fits. So our verb tense looks okay. And parallel. Well, what do we have so far? We have because the garden was untended, the windows had no shutters. Because the windows had no shutters. So far, so good. Anthony, did I miss anything?
No, in fact, if we put a period after, replace that comma after shutters with a period, this will be a working sentence. But it seems like the sentence is continuing. So, but for now, I think B, the parallel in the verb tense, works.
Okay, so let's take a look at C. Overrun. Here we're going to test for, again, parallel in verb form. Well, it seems a little off. Don't you think, Anthony Sonsoni?
It is. I think, like I said, if we were to replace the comma with a period after shutters and ended the sentence there, then the sentence would have been okay. But the sentence is continuing, and now we have that comma and we're not sure if that comma and is attempting to join two independent clauses or a series of subordinate clauses.
Oh, so usually, how does that work? How do we combine independent clauses and subordinate clauses?
Well, first we need to identify the subordinate clause of the sentence. In this case, it's kind of easy to do that because the word because is a subordinate conjunction. And if you have a subject and verb follow because, and that's what we call or consider as the subordinate clause. So if you look at our note up at top, you'll see that subordinate conjunction plus a subject plus a verb separated by a comma and then an independent clause. This is what we call a complex sentence, and and we identify the subordinate clause of the sentence by identifying the subordinate conjunction and the subject verb that follows it. In this case, the subordinate conjunction is because.
Okay, I see that. But our sentence looks a little different. No?
It does. Remember the comma and, that means whatever follows the and should
Oh, that's right. A coordinate conjunction. Okay.
precede it.
Sure. So here we have the lawn overrun by weeds.
I think we need to first identify this verb form. It's
What our
past participle, and standalone past participles cannot function as verbs. So here what we have is an adjective phrase, overrun by weeds. The lawn overrun by weeds. Overrun by weeds is modifying lawn.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the sentence structure, you'll see that the comma and isn't trying to connect nouns and their modifiers, or their verb form modifiers, as in the lawn overrun by weeds, but rather a series of clauses. Because the garden was untended, the windows had no shutters, and the lawn overrun by weeds. So the verb form in C alone, because past participles by themselves cannot function as verbs, fails to complete the series of clauses.
Okay.
What we have here is clause 1, clause 2, and then a noun and a participle phrase.
Yeah, so the third clause is incomplete. Okay.
So if you look here, the sentence actually, if you look at the top with the little note here, because, and you have the because, plus, in brackets, clause 1, clause 2, and then clause 3, and notice how the V in the third clause is in red, stating or reflecting the lawn overrun by weeds. The third part of this series fails to be a clause. So the sentence should really read, because the garden was untended, because the windows had no shutters, and because the lawn was overrun by weeds.
Oh, was overrun. Okay.
And the because being implied in each of these clauses. Now we have to check to see if an independent clause follows. People passing by the old house assumed that it was unoccupied. Would that be an independent clause, Brian?
Yeah, people assumed.
Okay, so in this case, I think we identified our error. It seems to be a parallel error caused by a verb form that can't function by itself as a verb.
Seems right, but let's go ahead and check D anyway, just in case.
Sure. Indeed, what we have is a verb form passing by, functioning as a modifier, modifying people. So who is passing by? People. People passing by the old house assumed that it was unoccupied. The verb form here works. The present participle does a great job here, functioning as an adjective, describing the actions of the people. So it tells us something more about the people. And because this verb, the present participle, is an action that people can take on, people can pass by old houses, the modifier seems to work too. We threw in an idiom here because of the preposition by, but what's our general rule of thumb in idiom? What do you do when you see a preposition? Do you circle D?
No, we don't actually. We do not chase idioms. That's why.
We don't chase idioms. Only when we tell you, memorize this idiom, do you need to chase that specific idiom. Otherwise, don't chase idioms. Okay, so D seems to work as well. So our answer, it seems, is C. In C, what we have is a verb form that fails to function as a verb of the sentence or the clause. And why is this a problem? Because preceding it is a series of dependent or subordinate clauses. So how do we fix this? Well, it's simple. Just get rid of overrun and write was overrun. So let's read the sentence together and see if the correction works. Brian, would you?
Sure, no problem. Because the garden was untended, the windows had no shutters, and the lawn was overrun by weeds, people passing by the old house assumed that it was unoccupied.
That sounded great. I'm definitely sure that C is the answer.
Me too. Noumena, empowering minds.